Welcome to DSEJ Home Classes. Hope my students you are doing well. So the topic of my today's lecture is again from the Plantae kingdom, and the topic that we are going to discuss today is the gymnosperms. The gymnosperms is one of the major groups of the plant kingdom, and gymnosperms are naked seeded, cone bearing, non flowering, vascular terrestrial plants. I said gymnosperms are naked seeded. It means their seeds are not covered by any wall from the outside. They bear the cones. It means this is the cone you can see here in the picture. Cone is the male and the female sporangia. They are clustered on definite branches to which we give the name cone. They are non-flowering, which means that they do not bear the flowers as the angiosperms. Of course, they are the vascular plants. That is, these are the plants which contain well-developed xylem and phloem tissue, which enables them to be independent terrestrial plants. Gymnosperms came into existence about 390 million years ago, somewhere in the Middle Devonian period, and they became the most dominating plants on the earth when they got diversified in the Middle Cretaceous period. So the gymnosperms have a long history, and I have to tell you that gymnosperms, they are the large plants, and many of the gymnosperms which are existing today, and many of the gymnosperms which existed in the ancient times have got fossilized or have got extinct. However, let me discuss some characteristics of the gymnosperm. The first is gymnosperms are medium-sized tree to tall trees and shrubs. That is, the size of the gymnosperms is quite diversified. They could be as small as the smallest gymnosperm is Zamia pygmea, which is if the smallest gymnosperm whose most of the parts are underground, and only 2 to 3 centimeters it is above the ground. And the tallest tree is sequoia, which is several feet in its height, and all possible in between sizes are there for the different species of the gymnosperms. Now, as I was talking about the fossil gymnosperms, here I have to tell you that many of the groups of the gymnosperms which existed during the Cretaceous and the Devonian period are not existing today, such as Lyginopteridales, Medulosales, and Catoniales. These are the three groups which are called as the fossil gymnosperms. Even today, a number of species of the gymnosperms, they are in some groups there the number is very smaller and they are at the verge of the extinction, and this many living species are today called as the living fossil. For example, Netum, and of course Cycas also sometimes. Now let us discuss about the general morphology of the gymnosperms, and here I have to tell you that we will start from the roots, and mainly the roots of the gymnosperms are the tap roots. Tap root means there is one main root and the secondary roots and the tertiary roots are there. But some variations are also seen. For example, here you can see in the figure the root of the pinus, which is typical in itself, that and it is called as the mycorrhizal roots. Roots in these genera have the fungal association and form the mycorrhiza. This is typical of the pinus, and they form the mycorrhiza, and here the fungal association with the roots provides a symbiotic type of relationship where the fungal gets the inhabitation and the roots of the plants, they get the benefit that it serves as it gives the mineral nutrition to the plants. Now another variation in the root is seen in case of Cycas. This is the bunch of the roots. As you can see, curly nodulated type of the roots are there, and this Curling of the roots in the cycas is due to the presence of the nitrogen fixing bacteria in its curls or the nodules like structure, and this is again a symbiotic type of relationship that the algal members, the cyanobacteria which inhabit it, they are getting the living place, and the plant is getting the nitrogen free of cost because they are the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Now this is about the roots of the gymnosperms. The roots are very long because mostly they grow in the dry areas, and they have to take the water from the deeper layers of soils. But one general feature is that the roots are the tap roots. Now let's talk about the leaves of the gymnosperms, and as you can see in the figure, I have given here a number of types of the roots. Leaves. These are the needle-like leaves of the pinus. These are small leaf structures in case of sequoia. These are the leaves of Cedrus deodara, Picea, Texas baccata, and then the lanceolate leaves of the Netum, and broadened leaf diversifying towards the outer margin of the Ginkgo biloba. Several variations of the leaf. The leaves in the gymnosperms are meant for the they give us the appearance of an adaptation for which they are wherever they occur, and the leaves in the gymnosperms, they are well adapted to withstand the extremes of temperature, humidity and wind. In conifers, these needle-like leaves, they appear in their morphology like this in order to reduce the surface area. Their thick cuticle and the sunken stomata also help to reduce the water loss. So the branches are of the two types. In case of gymnosperms, the branches of limited growth and branches of unlimited growth. Now let us talk about some general characteristics of the gymnosperms. Gymnosperms are heterosporous, producing two types of the spores, microspores and megaspores produced by separate sporangia. I have talked to you during when I was discussing pteridophytes that pteridophytes also produce the spores as the first structure of their gametophyte, but the spores in most of the pteridophytes are alike, that is for the male as well as the female there is no differentiation, and hence they are called as the homosporous. But as we proceed in their higher members, the heterospory appears, and that marks the precursor of the seed habit. But now this is gymnosperms, which is advanced group. These are the heterosporous. They produce two kinds of spores, microspores and megaspore. Now these two types of the sporangia, microsporangia and megasporangia, are found on the special leaf-like structures called as the sporophylls. The microsporangia represent the pollen sacs and the megasporangia represent the ovules. Microsporangia occur on microsporophylls and megasporangia occur on the megasporophyll. To elaborate this their features in much a better way, I would like to draw your attention towards this diagram where the life cycle of the gymnosperm is shown in a little detail, and in this case you can see that the gymnosperms, which are of course heterosporous, their main body of the gymnosperm is the sporophyte, which is diploid, which is of evolutionary significance, that as we proceed from algae to bryophytes to pteridophytes and then to the gymnosperms, we come across the feature that the gametophytic generation keeps on reducing and sporophyte keeps on becoming most dominant. And in case of gymnosperm, this is the large tree of the gymnosperm which we see, they are the sporophytic in nature. The two kinds of spores are produced within the sporangia that are borne on the sporophylls, which are arranged spirally along an axis to form a legs or the compact strobili or the cones. As I have just shown you in this diagram, the cones are formed. The strobili, microsporophylls and the megasporangia. This is the megagametophyte. This is the megagametophyte and this is the microgametophyte. They produce the microspores develop into the male gametophyte here, gametophyte, and this is highly reduced and only the pollen grain represents the gametophytic generation. The reduced gametophyte is the pollen grain. The development of the pollen grain takes place within the microsporangia, and the cone bearing the megasporophylls or the ovules or the megasporangia are born on the female strobilus, and this is the megasporangia and they are called as the female strobili. The male or the female cone or the strobili may be born on the same tree. That is, this tree is bisexual in case of Pinus. However, in Cycas, the male cones and the megasporophylls are born on the different trees. Whatsoever is the case, the megaspore mother cell is differentiated from one of the cells of the nucellus. The nucellus is protected by the envelopes and the composite structure along with the nucellus is called as the ovule. Ovules are born on the megasporophylls, which may be clustered to form the female cone. The megaspore mother cell divides meiotically to form the four megaspores. One of the megaspores enclosed within the megasporangium develops into multicellular female gametophyte that bears two archegonia. Here I will tell you the sporophyte produces the microsporangium, megasporangium. There occurs the meiosis and the formation of the microspore, and the megaspore marks the development of the gametophytic stage. The microgametophyte is represented by the pollen grain and megagametophyte is represented by the ovule. And then the ovules are born on the megasporophylls which may be clustered. Now, after the microgametophyte produces the sperms and the megagametophyte produces the eggs, which after fertilization forms the diploid zygote, and here ends the haploid generation or the gametophytic stage, which is highly reduced. Unlike bryophytes and pteridophytes, the gymnosperms, the male and the female gametophyte, do not have an independent existence. They remain within the sporangia, retained on the sporophyte. The pollen grain is released from the microsporangium. This is carried by the air current, comes in contact with the opening of the ovules born on the megasporophylls. The pollen tube carrying the male gamete grows towards the archegonia in the ovule and it discharges its contents near the mouth of the archegonia. Following fertilization, zygote develops into embryo, and this embryo, it represents the future seeds which embryo develops into the seed. These seeds are not covered. The name gymnosperm, naked seeded plants. So this is in short or in general the life cycle of the gymnosperms. Now because I told you that gymnosperms, they show a lot of diversity and there are several groups. So the gymnosperms are again grouped into further groups because of their extreme diversity, such as the coniferales, then the cycadales, then the needles and the ginkgoales. I will be discussing all the groups one by one along with their specific members, but before I will discuss the economic importance of the gymnosperms. My dear students, here I must mention that the group gymnosperm is a large group and cannot be completed in one lecture. So today we will be discussing about the economic importance of the gymnosperms, which is in itself a very debatable topic. And next time I will be discussing the 4 groups of the gymnosperms in my next lecture. So let's start with the economic importance. Economic importance of the gymnosperms as a food. Seeds of some species such as cycas, ginkgo, pinus and neem are edible as a very precious dry fruits. The seeds and the stems of cycas yield a product to which we call sago, which is starch, and it is also called as the arrowroot, taken by many people during their fast. The smallest gymnosperm, Zamia, is rich source of starch. Seeds and stems of Cycas revoluta are used to obtain wine. Young leaves of cycas are cooked and a typical bread called as the kafir bread is prepared. So these are the some of the economic importances where the gymnosperms are producing food for us. Now, funeral wreaths. The leaves of cycas are very strong, they leathery, and even after they detach from the plant, they remain green for a long time, and this property is used by Europeans in their funeral wreaths. The group gymnosperm is a group of very beautiful plants, and many plants we grow in the gardens for the decorative purposes. Even at our homes we grow thuja, juniperus, biota and auricuria. Every beautiful garden has got these plants as the ornamentals. In spite of these, there are several other miscellaneous uses. For example, the leaves of Cycas circinellis are used for making brooms and baskets. Stem of Cycas rhamphai are used for making houses in Indonesia. Not only this, in industry, Cycas produces gum, which is used as an adhesive antidote for snake bite and using malignant ulcers. Now, tannins are used in the leather industry, and it is extracted from the bark of Araucaria, sequoia, etc. Canada balsam. This is a product which is known to every student of science, because when we make the slides, we use some watery product for mounting the medium, to which we call Canada balsam. Many times we use it in the high power of the microscope. Actually, this Canada balsam is a turpentine which is obtained from Abies balsamea, again a gymnosperm, and the biological preparations are made out of it. Amber, it is a fossil resin which is obtained from Pinus succinifera. Wood of Pinus is used for making doors, poles, beam, railway wagon and flooring, etc. The pine wood is very popular for the furniture purposes. Nowadays, every decorative furniture is made up of the plywood, and this is prepared from Podocarpus. Then the papers for the news printing material, it is also made from the gymnosperms, several varieties of gymnosperms. The cricket bats, the matchsticks, everything, these are all obtained from one or the other types of the gymnosperms. So these are the some of the uses of the gymnosperms. A lot still remains to be discussed. And now I must tell you that I stop my today's lecture here, with the promise that we will be discussing the rest of the uses of gymnosperms and the main groups of the gymnosperms, the cycadales, coniferales, chincoales and nitales one by one in the next chapter. Till then, thank you, stay safe, stay healthy, and in case you have any query, you are most welcome to contact me on my phone number given at the end. And my dear students, you must go through the topic gymnosperms so that you can well understand the next topic, which will be in continuity with this topic. That's all for today. Thank you.